Okay. Hi, hello. This is who knows what attempt because of audio issues. Um, Technically, I've been trying to do two separate videos, so not solely this, but yes, multiple failed attempts with wonky audio. As this will be my first video that I'm posting on here that isn't like an edit of a show, might as well introduce myself. So, I'm Rachel. I am pretty nerdy about media. I'm a big DC fan, have been since probably a little over a decade because I got into DC with the Nolan Batman trilogy. But then I got more seriously interested with Man of Steel in 2013. So yeah, about a decade now, as we're in 2022. So since I'm a big DC fan, I thought it was fitting for me to have my first video be somewhat of a review on the Batman 2022. As you can probably tell, this isn't scripted. I have some notes of things that I don't want to forget to mention as I talk about this, but it's very much going to be rambly, probably kind of jumbled. So let's start with the good. So my favorite part of this film was Bruce and Selena's dynamic. I think that was the strongest aspect of the film. I think it was the most fleshed out relationship. And I just really, really loved their dynamic. I loved that. So this is gonna have spoilers. Last attempt, I forgot to say that before I started talking spoilers, and I almost forgot to say it again. But this is gonna have spoilers in it, because that's the point of this review. It's to get into the nitty gritty of the film and hopefully get some other people to talk about it with me because I really, really liked it and I'm eager to talk about it with people. So, yeah, Bruce and Selena, I love that the first time they properly met was Selena breaking into that dead politician's house and Bruce just being there, like, hey, what are you doing? And so obviously she's on the defensive because she's literally just trying to help her friend, and he's accusing her of killing someone. But I love that as soon as she's like, "No, you've got the wrong idea. I'm just trying to help my friend, trying to help her make sure she's safe." He just like immediately trusts her and goes back with her to her place. Because I mean, that could have gone so many ways, but he just trusts her and he just decides to believe her. And so I love that there's that initial trust. I love that Selena agrees to work with him because, yes, she is working with him for the purpose of finding said friend. But I mean, Selena literally works at the place where she needs information about this friend. So, like, she didn't need Bruce. She could have spied on her own, but she decides to trust him in return and work with him, even though that goes kind of rocky, as you know if you've watched the film. But yeah, I love that they're just willing to trust each other so quickly. I love how a lot of the emotional scenes played out. I love that when Bruce like confronts her about Falcone the next time they see each other, that she just kind of, I mean, it was more a moment of like anger that she just kind of blurts out the truth that Falcone is her dad. But I love that she was willing to be vulnerable and explain that. Um, and I love that, like the way he just kind of immediately softened and apologized. I love, love, love the way that Bruce was determined to stop her from killing Falcone when she found out about him being responsible for her friend's death. And it wasn't a situation of Bruce being like, hey, no, he doesn't deserve to die. It was a situation of Bruce being like, no, this is gonna hurt you if you do this, and I don't want you to hurt yourself like that. And I know that kind of narrative is in a lot of films like this, because I know a lot of superhero media likes to be like, hey, if you kill the bad guy, then you're just as bad as them. Which, like, I kind of agree with that in some ways. I kind of don't agree with it in others. Um, but I think it was beautifully executed here, and I just love the way Bruce was like there for her emotionally in that moment. Like when he was holding her, and he was just uh, like you don't have to do this. I just thought that was a very beautiful moment. And then I also loved at the end when Selena saw Bruce and he was like cornered by I feel like mercenary isn't the word I want, but I can't think of a more accurate one. So when that mercenary was like pointing the gun at Bruce and about to shoot him, I loved that Selena rushed to him and saved him from that initial attack. Um, and then when they were having their moment, which was very unwise, because you guys are surrounded by people with guns, make sure they're all unconscious before you decide to have this little moment. But since they didn't, Selena gets attacked, and I I was trying to like not scream when Bruce injected himself with whatever that green liquid was so he could save Selena. Just the intensity with which they wanted to protect each other and like help each other. It just, I thought it was extremely touching. And I just think it was a really wonderful, I don't, I guess, start of a romance because, like, I feel like saying they're in love with each other is a lot because they don't know each other that well yet. But it's definitely a good basis to lead to that. And I mean, presumably there's going to be more films. I know there's like potential spin-off shows for HBO Max that might happen. So I'm sure we haven't seen the last of Selena, and I'm sure we haven't seen the last of their dynamic. And I think it could be a really beautiful romance as they interact more and more. But I do have to say, one thing I really hated in regards to Bruce and Selena is I absolutely loathed the scene where he was watching her get undressed before she got dressed into her Catwoman suit because he had no reason to. I don't think he even knew Catwoman existed at that point. So it was literally just him watching her undress, and it was pretty creepy. And I'm mad it was in the film because like he was literally watching her because he knew she recognized um that woman that was her roommate. I mean, he didn't know he was her roommate until he was outside her building, but he saw her reaction when she saw the photo, so he knew she recognized her, which is why he followed her home. And then, because he was literally trying to find that woman, so then he watches them like while her roommate's freaking out, and then he just watches Selena for an unnecessarily long time involving watching her undress. And it's like he couldn't have watched the friend and seen if the friend was doing something suspicious because he has no reason to suspect Selena of anything either, except for like hiding the fact that she knows her. So it's just, it was weird. It was uncomfortable. It literally did not have to be shot like that. Like I don't understand why we had to witness Bruce creepily watching Selena undress for like 30 seconds. Like it, why? We didn't need that. I guess kind of springboarding off of that, I think the three characters who got the best of the writing were Bruce, Selena, and the Riddler. I think the Riddler was such a good villain. I think I'm gonna try not to talk too much about other interpretations of Batman because I want this to be specifically about this film. But I do have to admit that I'm a fan of Snyder version of these characters from DC, and Lex from Batman v Superman is one of my favorite movie villains. And the Riddler in the Batman was honestly giving me pretty similar vibes because both of them are just like these masterminds who have all of this knowledge because they're just constantly trying to learn more and more. And I just love how the Riddler had like all the cards for everything. Like I mean, obviously he's smart because he's creating these really intricate riddles that he wants people to solve. But I love how he was playing with everyone. I love how he just had plans upon plans upon plans. I love a villain who's always ahead and like reveling in the chaos and like destruction. I love a villain that you can love to hate. I loved the noir style of the film. I remember Matt Reeves had said that that was like what he was trying to do, but I don't think I fully understood what he meant by having a noir style film until I actually watched it. And I think this was both a positive and a negative because I think this film really showcased Bruce's smarts in a way that we haven't seen, at least not in any live action adaptations that I'm familiar with, because I'm not familiar with cartoons or like the actual comics, so I can't speak to those. But I feel like every live action adaptation I've seen of Batman has, I mean, obviously Bruce is smart, but I feel like every live action adaptation I've seen has relied more heavily on all of his gadgets and the tech that he's able to acquire because of his wealth. So it was really gratifying to see him use his intellect. Like like literally every time he got one of Riddler's puzzles, he'd solve it in like 30 seconds. Like it was pretty incredible to watch because he wasn't solving these riddles with his gadgets, he was solving them with his own mind. And he was so observant. I loved the shots where you could like see that he was seeing something before another character was, because I just thought that was like really a really nice way to showcase that he is a good detective, because I'm not going to say we don't see that in other interpretations, but I don't feel like we've seen it at this level before. So I really appreciated that. Um, what else do I have in my notes? Right, I think I was saying that this was like a positive and a negative. Again, positive because I think it was a new take, and I really appreciated seeing this side of Bruce because I don't feel like I've seen it before. But I also feel like it was kind of to the film's detriment because there was so little of us seeing Bruce like as Bruce Wayne, because he probably spent 80% of the film as Batman. And I mean, this is the beginning of likely a trilogy because I've heard Robert Pattinson signed on for 3 films. So likely a trilogy, potentially more, because I have a feeling this is going to do really well in the box office, and I've heard it's done well with critics. So yeah, we'll probably see more of him. So I don't want to say like, oh, it's bad because we didn't see that much of Bruce, because this story is also like Bruce is so consumed with what he feels is his responsibility as Batman that like he's kind of shut off the public persona Bruce. And he's only utilizing that when absolutely necessary to aid in his detective work as Batman. So I don't want to say I don't want to like too strongly say that it's a negative, but I do think if this were to be a standalone film, um, it would have been to its detriment that we saw so little of Bruce, the public persona. Because I think with more films or more in this universe, that can definitely be expanded on. And as Bruce is now, as a result of the end of the film, is now more hopeful and wants to inspire others, I think that's definitely going to lead to him being more open as Bruce, the public persona. So I feel pretty confident we'll see more of that in the future. I really, really, really loved the color scheme. Like there was so much black and red, which I mean, I guess people could argue that that makes it hard to see because I know a lot of people like to rag on like color grading in action films nowadays, especially big budget ones like this. But I do think it was really cool how like there was just black and red everywhere because like those are Batman's colors. Um, so I really liked that. I can see why people wouldn't, but I thought that was cool. I loved uh, near the opening when we see Bruce show up, like he just comes out of the shadows and fights that group of people who are about to beat up that guy. Oh my gosh, that fight was so good. This version of Bruce had no mercy. He just immediately beat, I don't know, probably close to a dozen dudes. And oh my gosh, it was brutal. It was so brutal. Um, but I loved it. I loved that his driving force at the beginning of the film was just I need criminals to fear me, so I have to be relentless. And so that fight was brutal at the beginning. The car chase sequence, oh my God, that might have been my favorite scene in the film. I had not been to the theater since February of 2020, so it's been a while. But the car chase sequence, oh my God, it made me remember how much I love theaters. I loved when Bruce was I don't want to say he was arrested, but when he was in GCPD and things were getting a little heated with some of the officers. And so he and Jim had to like stage that fight. And when Bruce was running away, that scene, the camera work when he was using oh God, the name of that tool escapes me, but whatever he was using to like uh get out of there and quickly shoot up to the top of the building. That camera work was so cool. And also the camera work when he jumped off with, I guess, some sort of parachute type thing that was in his cape, because I'm not sure what else it would have been. But yeah, the camera work was insane. I loved it. But yeah, like I said, I think this is the most brutal version, at least in live action, of Bruce that we've seen. Because like when he saw Jim after that staged fight, and Jim was like, "You could have pulled that punch," and Bruce was like, "I did." Like, how much force is he using towards these actual criminals? If Jim was like, "God, that hurt," and Bruce was like, "I pulled my punch though," like insanity. And also, that just makes it all the more impressive that Selena was holding her own against him in their first fight when they met. But yeah, I feel like that's all of my positives that I took notes on. Okay, I would feel wrong for not saying anything about this. Um, and I guess it's less about the movie itself, but Colin Farrell as the Penguin. I I have to admit, I think the Penguin as a character was kind of lackluster, as I said in The Good, that Bruce, Selena, and the Riddler were the strongest characters, the ones with the best characterization. I think pretty much everyone else could have been replaced with an original character who doesn't exist in the comics, and it wouldn't have changed the story, like, at all. Which, I mean, again, there's probably gonna be more in the expanded universe, so I don't want to, like, write off the characters just yet. But, like, that's not great. I mean, there was a lot going on in this film, so I can't, like, shit on it too bad. Um, because there's an impressive amount of things going on in the narrative. But yeah, back to my thought about Penguin. But I just wanted to quickly say that I think everyone else kind of suffered because of how much characterization went to those three characters. But yeah, so the Penguin, I thought he was pretty lackluster, but that might just be because how little screen time he had, since the Riddler was the main villain and he took up so much. But yeah, I am uncomfortable with the fact that they had the Penguin as someone fat, but in order to portray that, they hired a thin person, Colin Farrell, and shoved him in a fat suit. And I don't want to like put all of the blame on Colin. Like, I mean, he definitely deserves some because he could have said no, but I don't know if he knew when auditioning that he was going to be in the fat suit. And I'm pretty confident he didn't have any say in the actual character design. So I don't think it's fair to toss full responsibility at him. But yeah, I just find it deeply troubling that it's 2022 and we're still hiring people who are thin and shoving them in fat suits instead of hiring actual fat people. Very weird behavior. Also, okay, so I said I'm not familiar with the comics, but I have looked at some of the original designs of Penguin. And I mean, I feel like the origin of him being fat has to be fat phobic in and of itself. So, like, was it necessary for him to be fat? Because, like, okay, so I'm vaguely familiar with the Gotham show that was on Fox that finished airing probably 3 years ago now, maybe 2 years ago. I don't remember when it ended, but it was semi recent. Because I watched the first season back when it aired. So I vaguely remember the first season. I kind of remember some stuff about Oswald, but like I thought that was a pretty decent version of Oswald, and like the actor who played him was skinny. Um, and I don't know if Oswald in the comics was disabled because I know Gotham's version of Oswald was disabled. And it's like I don't see why fatness was necessary to be an attribute for him, especially since it seemed to be a purposefully negative attribute. I did kind of like the reveal that Bruce's dad wasn't as clean cut as like Bruce had thought he was, because I do like some of that like questionable morality type stuff in these kind of films, but I really don't like that what prompted this reveal that his dad may not have been as good as he believed was because his dad was trying to like hide the fact that his mom had some mental health issues, because it just felt very like sensationalistic and kind of icky, and like it was only there to make Bruce kind of lose faith in his dad momentarily. So yeah, I didn't really like that. I don't think it was necessary to put in there. Besides the whole penguin fat suit thing, I don't know if there's much I can outright call bad. So yeah, the underwhelming. I think since Bruce was Batman for pretty much the whole film, and we didn't see Bruce, that meant Bruce and Alfred's relationship kind of suffered because we didn't see that much of Alfred, and so I didn't really have many feelings about him. Like I it just kind of felt like he was there. Um, I kind of felt something when he and Bruce had that moment in the hospital, and Bruce was like, "I'm scared about losing people I care about." But I mean, I since I don't feel like the relationship had been developed all that well, it was just like, "Oh, I feel sad for Bruce," but it didn't mean much in terms of their relationship to me, if that makes sense. What else? I think there was some clunky dialogue in some places. Like, what comes to mind most easily was at the beginning when we see Alfred for the first time and he was trying to like get Bruce to do some public things, like meet with Wayne accountants, I believe it was. And Bruce got kind of curt and he was like, "You're not my father." Like, I feel like that conflict could have been written a bit more elegantly, because literally everyone watching knows that Alfred isn't his dad. It felt too on the nose, I guess. Yeah, I know there were some other moments of dialogue that kind of made me like roll my eyes, but that's the only one that stuck out enough for me to remember it when I was compiling notes. um, I think my other the last issue I can really think of that I had was it felt like it felt like there were three false endings before we got to the actual film's end, because like we have Bruce saving everyone and like having his monologue about how he has to inspire people instead of be um this symbol of fear, and he wants to like help Gotham heal. And I thought that monologue was really good. I thought that was like a great way to end the film, but then it kept going. And we had that little tease of the Joker, which, don't get me wrong, that scene was excellent. I That was another scene where I tried not to scream because I was really excited about that little Joker tease. And I like the scene, but I think Bruce's monologue was a stronger place to end it. And then I think there might have been something else before that Bruce and Selena scene at the end. Um, but also that Bruce and Selena scene felt like it went on longer than it needed to. Like I enjoyed their goodbye, I get why Bruce was conflicted. And I think that was a good character beat too, of him like wanting to go, but feeling a duty to stay in Gotham, and wanting to help make Gotham better. But I also understand why Selina wants to leave. I liked that character beat, but then we watch them kind of like on their bikes together, but not together because they're going in different ways eventually. But that scene, that shot or few shots of them on their bikes felt like it went on for like so long because I was like, why are we still following them? Like they just said their goodbye. But that last shot of Bruce going one way while Selena went the other and him watching her disappear into like the fog in his motorcycle mirror, like, oh, that hit my heart. That was sad. So yeah, I'm eager to see where their relationship goes when she returns, because I find it hard to believe that she won't return, especially since this film leaned into their romance pretty heavily. Yeah, I definitely had more thoughts, but my brain is too scrambled from the chaos that this weekend has been. So I don't recall what they were. So yeah, I guess that's it. Um, if you have any thoughts that you agree with me, disagree with me, please leave a comment because I would love to chat about this. If there's something I forgot to mention that you really liked or really hated, please comment that as well. Because again, I want to talk to people about this film. So yeah, thanks for listening. Since this is almost 45 minutes, I'll probably cut some stuff out because I was stumbling over my words a bit, since this wasn't scripted, as I said before. Um, but yeah, thanks if you listened all the way, and bye for now.